Hi, my name is Dave McCrae, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Meet Your Merrimack Town Council Candidates. Today we're joined by Tom Mahon, a current councilor and a candidate for one of the three open positions in April. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Dave. It's a good idea.
Well, before we get going, I'd like to let everyone know kind of what we're about. Is during the next few weeks, I think there's going to be a lot of programming and a lot of articles written about the candidates and where they stand on different issues and what their philosophies are. If you're interested, if you're interested in that, there'll be a lot of ways to get the info, but you're not going to find it today. Today we're here to find out about the people, the individuals, how they became the person they are today. And so we're hoping to have a little fun, learn a lot about the person, and go from there. Okay, Tom, I guess I'd like to start off with what town, what area did you grow up?
I was born in Camden, New Jersey, and I was raised in a little town about 5 miles outside of Camden called Mount Ephraim, population 8,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, small town, 75 foot frontage lots. You know, it was tight and compact. So.
And growing up in that area, what did you do to keep yourself busy, and how did you spend your summers? I mean, that's usually where a young man has 2 or 3 months to kind of do his thing.
Well, I played Little League ball for a few years. I also did a lot of bike riding. There was still a fair amount of countryside out there, outside of where we were. We were sort of the end of the ring, the development ring at that particular point. We could ride down the road 3 or 4 miles, and it was all farmland. So we could go there. We would sometimes ride over there was a radio station over there. We would go over to the radio station and sometimes talk to the engineer over there about what he was doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a guy that kind of was friendly with the kids, per se,
Yeah.
and he'd
Yeah.
put up with you, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word.
he did. Well, yeah, he was glad to have the company. You know, there he was by himself in this big building,
Yeah.
in this little building, and so we would go over there. We also walked the tracks. There was a spur of the Pennsylvania Reading Seashore line that ran through town, and we would walk the tracks. They didn't run much on that, but we would do that. We'd go swimming. The county had a pool about a mile away from the house, and we did swimming lessons over there. Usually it was rainy and cold when they did it, but you know, during the summer it was hot and humid, and so it was a relief, and that's where we went to go swimming.
Now, even though it was only 8,000 people, just listening, I almost get the feel that it had a little Merrimack in it, and that it had some ruralness, and at the same time it wasn't a hick town per se either. You know,
No, it was much like Merrimack was when I moved here in '76. It was a blue-collar town.
Really?
Had the guy behind me, he worked at the shipyard. The next guy to him was an insurance salesman. The next guy over from him worked at the refinery. Our next-door neighbors, the woman worked as a seamstress. She was a lady garment worker, worked in a garment factory, and he was an upholsterer. The guy next to him ran the dry cleaner business in town.
Oh, really?
So it was and the guy across the street from us, he worked for a company that made radios, consumer radios.
And what kind of like houses, as far as real estate, was it a ranch, Cape type thing? Was it small?
Yeah, pretty much.
Small
Ours was a ranch.
Yeah.
And my dad and my grandfather and my uncles built the house.
Yeah.
I helped out as much as I could at 3 years old.
And back then, when people say they build a house, they actually built it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I say that because now when people say I'm building a house, they mean the contractor's building it and they're overseeing it. But
Well,
back then, they built it.
Right. Mr. Thomas, the guy up the corner, 2 blocks up, he built his house, and when he finished, he had no mortgage. Because
Wow.
he would accumulate his money, he would buy his materials, and he would build a room.
Yeah.
And he put the wall up, and it was cinder block and brick. It was a nice house. But when he finished, he had no mortgage because he built it as he could pay for it.
What a refreshing way to live.
Yeah, really. I mean, you can't do those things today.
No,
it's
absolutely.
It's just not the way
well,
it's done.
much higher price tag. I mean, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah. Well, my dad's mortgage payment was $125 a month.
Yeah.
That's.
Oh, you're gonna bring tears to my eyes.
Yeah, I know. Hey, look. I can't tell you how many times I loaned him that $125 a month sometimes though, either. When he got 4 sisters,
Yeah.
you know, so it was, you know, so that was, yeah, it's just like, you know, it's a bygone era. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's just not there. It was after the war,
Yeah.
and you know, my dad bought 2 lots, so we had the larger lot, and we were the magnet for the area. We were the playground. All the kids would come
Now, who
over.
was in the other lot, Tom?
Nobody.
Oh, okay.
We built a house,
Okay,
and we
then
had
we had the lot
the
next
adjoining
to it.
lot right next to it, so
Yeah.
we covered the whole side of that street.
Oh, great.
And center field was the empty space between the 2 houses across the street.
Oh, I saw that. Hearing stuff like that to me is so refreshing because that's one of my pet peeves in life now. Kids can't play unless they're wearing uniforms and they have umpires, and the idea of just playing on a lot at your house, you know, that is bygone days.
Yeah, well, that was one of the fun things. I mean, and we would go up to they built an elementary school a few blocks away, and they put a ball field in behind it, which is nothing more than sand. But it was a tough place to play ball. But we would go up there with whoever we could get together, and you know, you choose up sides and you play a whole bunch of different kinds of ball games. You know, hit the bat or pitcher's hand or a bunch of other things that the
Yeah.
way we bent the rules to accommodate only having
How many people you
yeah, how many
had?
people we had,
Yeah,
you know, and,
yeah.
and we made it up and we played it along, and you know,
Yeah.
there was no umpire, there was no rhubarbs, there was, you know, there were some arguments about some things, but you know, it wasn't like the organized stuff.
Yeah, and there were no parents out there.
That's right. That was the best part. You know, they knew where we were.
Yeah.
You know, they knew where we were and what was going on. So you know, it worked out well.
Well, speaking of parents, I'd like to talk a little bit about yours and some of the values you feel they helped instill in you to make you the man you are today.
Well, you know, we were a large family. I have 4 sisters. I've got 25 first cousins.
Really?
Okay, when you know you come from my mother's Italian, my father's Irish. Okay, so there's a lot of kids on both sides. You know, when I told my wife that I had 25 first cousins, she almost fell over because she's got 1. Okay, and I said, well, you know, you were raised in a Methodist church. I was raised in a Catholic church. There's a different dynamic there. You know, so. So you know, so that was, you know, so there was a high, there's a high premium on family value issues, cooperation, you know, helping out, you know, doing those sorts of things. You know, my parents instilled in me a very high expectation for education. You know, they never pushed, they never beat on us or anything like that. But we knew the expectation was that we were going to do well enough that we were going to go to college. That was our goal. Our goal was to go to college, to get educated enough to be able to be admitted to college and go to college.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, had your parents, were they college
No.
educated? So
No,
that was,
my father, I think, had 1 semester. My mother was an accelerated high school grad. They skipped her a year. In 7th or 8th grade, they skipped her a year. But she never, she didn't go to college until she needed to go to college to keep her teaching certificate in the parochial school system for the Camden Diocese. And then she did like 32 hours or something that she had to do in order to meet the criteria that the state imposed on them for that.
so again, there was no fist banging, but it was very clear. You
Oh,
were
yeah.
going to go to school and you were going to
Yep.
learn and you were going to
Yep.
move forward.
Yep, yep.
Speaking of that, is going into the junior high, middle school years, and high school. What kind of student were you, and what were your favorite subjects?
Well, I think the most instructive story I can tell you about what kind of a student I was is when, unbeknownst to me, in New Jersey you got your driver's license when you're 17. My birthday's in January, so I'm 4 or 5 months ahead of my peers. So my 17th birthday came and I went and got my driver's permit. That's when I found out I needed glasses. The guy thought I was jiving him when I couldn't read the chart past the 3rd line. You know, put your glasses on, son. I don't have glasses. Put your glasses on, son. I'm sorry, sir, I don't have glasses. So that's when I found out I needed them. Which may have been part of my problem with some of my academics. But anyway, I found out later that my parents had a very spirited argument. My father wanted me to have a car, and my mother didn't. And the compromise they struck was that if I get all Bs, at least all Bs on my next report card, I could have the car. but they never told me.
Oh,
that.
they never told
They
you.
never told me. Okay, so one night I come home and I had a week after I got the report card, my dad says, "Come on, I got to go back over to Haddonfield," which is a town he worked in a few towns over. And I hopped in the car. We drive back over. He pulls into the Atlantic gas station, and he walks in and he comes walking out. He's got a set of keys and he flips me the keys and he says, "That's yours. It just cost me $75. You can pay me back $5 a week out of your paper route money." And that's how I got my first car.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh?
But that tells you the kind of student I was.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I found some papers from 7th grade when I was looking for the photographs we used at the front of the program. And I'm looking at that and going, oh, yeah, this is all coming back to me now. The 79, the 84, a couple of hundreds, maybe a 92.
Yeah.
I just, they were always comparing me to my oldest sister, who was a year and a half younger than me, and she was always straight A's. And I wasn't. I just, they just didn't move fast enough for me to keep my interest, so, I did okay.
Well, you did. Sounds like you did a steady B.
I just, I was.
And your father knew what he had when he made the deal.
Yeah.
He didn't go with A. He knew he knew what you were gonna hit.
So,
Speaking of high school, what kind of activities did you do there? Were you into sports at all? Band?
no. Our football, to play football at my high school was a suicide mission. We were, in 4 years, we had 3 wins.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well, there was 900 students in the school, and we had no athletic facilities. It was a parish high school and in the city, so there was no real athletic facilities. They really couldn't afford the types of equipment and the types of coaching that they needed to really be as successful as they could be. So I didn't play sports, but I wasn't that inclined to play it anyway. I didn't. Look at me now, okay, at what I weigh now. Well, when I was in high school, I weighed 110 pounds. Okay.
Wow.
Now, 110 pounds playing football, you're not going to get too far.
Well, and just like we saw the pictures when it opened the show, and just to give everyone a feel, is when they close the show, they're going to show the pictures again, and like I say, Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, yeah. So, so anyway, but I played in the band.
What instrument?
Clarinet. I sort of played the clarinet. Okay. And I was in forensics, which is, I did declamation, extemporaneous speech, and spontaneous. And for declamation, you had a prepared speech that you memorized and you delivered. For the second one, you got 20 minutes to prepare. You pulled a topic out of a hat. You had 20 minutes to prepare. You could have an index card with no more than 50 words on there, and you had to give a 3-minute speech.
So it was it wasn't debate club, but it was kind of like a public speaking type curriculum.
They were affiliated with what was called the National Forensic League, and we did have a debating team. But I wasn't on that. I did the other pieces. The spontaneous piece, you pulled the thing out of the hat. You had 5 minutes.
Did you like that?
Oh yeah, it was fun.
Oh yeah.
It was fun, but it was a lot of preparation. I did a lot of reading during the week, a lot of news magazines, newspapers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I'm so good at Trivial Pursuit. I had a lot of stuff. I learned a lot. How do you know this stuff? Where did you get that?
Well, next, I consider this to be probably the toughest question I asked during this show is because there's so many to go, or you might be a group, but fondest memory growing up.
I just think it was the family stuff that we did. Every Sunday afternoon it was over to my grandmother's, and you would often walk in, and there she would be at the kitchen table hand rolling the dough for the ravioli, okay, or the pasta, or whatever else she was making that particular afternoon. So
Yeah.
And then all my cousins and my uncles and everything would come over, and we would.
So when you say family, you mean family?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And those sorts of things are, piling 9 people into a 1947 Dodge, which you could do in those days.
Yeah.
Okay, and driving to the shore, which was about an hour and 20 minutes away, and going to the Jersey Shore for the day. Those sorts of things.
So you had 20 some odd cousins, and you actually knew them.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, well, I'd like to move forward a little bit and go after high school. Were you in the military and what college? In other words, the next step?
Well,
What
the
did
next
you do?
step is I got accepted at LaSalle College,
Yeah.
and I went there for 4 years. I majored in political science. I started out in English and majored in political science, shifted to that. I was active on campus with the college union committees, which was sort of like the social center for the campus. We ran a lot. We ran the intramural programs. We ran the dances. We ran cultural activities, concerts.
What state is LaSalle?
It's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so it was away from home, but not on the other side of the country.
It was 20 miles as the crow flies in an hour trying to get there on the Schuylkill Expressway every day because I was a day hop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't, no, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Too expensive to live in the dorms. You know, I paid my way through school. I mean, I had to work all the whole time, so,
Yeah.
you know, which is something else you can't do today very easily. So, you know, I was working at a supermarket, and I did other jobs too while I was in college. I mean, I had 4 jobs between my junior and senior year. That summer, I worked 4 different, same time. I had 1 day off every 13 days.
Yeah.
So, you know, just to, you know, to build that up. I graduated from there in 1968, and I went to work I got a job with the National Security Agency. I worked there for a year and got drafted.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got drafted. Went into the Army. Actually, I went back. I got drafted in New Jersey, so they sent me to Fort Dix, which was 35 miles from home.
Yeah.
So I went through basic training there, and then they shifted me to Fort Holabird, which was in
Now,
Baltimore.
did you go in with any type of rank since you were a college graduate?
Nope, I was slick sleeve,
Yeah.
private,
Yeah.
you know. And, you know, I qualified for OCS, and they called us all in. Now, gentlemen, you're all qualified for OCS. And, no, not me.
Yeah.
I'm not cut out for that. So then they sent me to Holabird, and I went through the intelligence analyst school at Fort Holabird, and then I got sent to Vietnam.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that you
Yeah.
went to Vietnam.
Yeah.
Any stories
Well,
or thoughts?
well, you know, it was, you know, we knew going in that, you know, when we got to Fort Holabird, what are you here for? Well, 96B, which was the MOS. And they said, oh, well, you know where your next orders are. You know, you're going to be going to Vietnam. So they sent me over there. I got there, and the guy from the battalion headquarters shows up with a truck to take, there was about 8 of us, and he starts going through our forms, and he looks at me, you a college grad? Yeah. Can you type? Yes, I can. And he said, you can? He says, yes. How many words? And we got into this exchange, okay? And I said, I can type 60 words a minute if you're not too concerned about accuracy. I said, if you're concerned about accuracy, I can probably do about 40. And he says, okay, throw your gear over. When we get out to the headquarters, throw your gear off to the side. And they held me there to work in the personnel office. Because what they were doing was they were snagging the college guys coming through because they knew they could throw them the manual, and within a week they knew the job.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what happened. I became the battalion personnel clerk.
Oh, really?
And
Now, where were you stationed?
I was stationed in Saigon at the our compound was on the Tan Son Nhut Air Base.
And
So-
you were there, did you spend 1 year, you
I
guys
spent
used to
13
do?
months. I extended because at that time, if you came back, if you rotated back, you got 30 days leave. If you came back from 30 days leave and you had less than 6 months of active duty, you got an early out.
Yeah.
So I extended for an additional 60 days because that would put me into February, and my end of service date would have been June of 1971 because I got drafted in June of 1969. So, but then they went through this whole drawdown, and so I got out after 13 months.
Oh.
So, hey, I mean, an extra $110 a month showing the movies because I learned how to run a 16 millimeter projector in grammar school. So, you know,
So overall, then it was 25 months that you served in the service?
no, only
13?
18
Oh, 18?
months. 18
Okay.
months, 6 days.
Now, I don't want to say if you had to do it over again, but is it something do you feel it helped grow you up? And,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's an experience
Oh, yeah.
that now that it's said and done,
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
glad you did it?
Yeah, it was an opportunity to go someplace. It was an opportunity to meet a bunch of different people. It was an opportunity to see a lot of different ways that people dealt with issues and dealt with things, and you know, learning how to work with different ethnic groups, and seeing how, you know, interacting in a foreign environment and that sort of stuff. So, you know, yeah, it was worth it. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the, you know, a lot of people will disagree with me, but I think that's one of the, you know, it's one of the things that's missing, is the fact that, you know, prior to December of 1969, you were eligible to be drafted. After that, they went to the lottery,
Right.
you know, a lot of guys, including a former sergeant major of the Marine Corps that I knew, that was, you know, it was really something that he felt that was missing, is that, you know, there was no grabbing you and sending you off to perform 2 years of service, so that you get some seasoning, you get away from the crowd that you hung around with in town, and you come back, you know, with, you know, potentially a more mature attitude, and have an understanding of what the rest of the world is like. It's not confined to the corporate the corporate boundaries of your community, but
Right.
a lot of other places.
So you get out, what are you, about 23, 24 years
I
old?
was 24.
Okay, so we've gotten you through your days playing baseball in the sandlots, got you through high school, college, the military. Next question is, how did you meet the future Mrs. Mahon?
Well, she's not the future Mrs. Mahon. She kept her own name.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry about that.
So, you know, I went back to Maryland and went back to my job because I have that protection under federal law.
Was for the national security.
Yeah. So I went back to that job, and I joined the JCs, and one of their projects was the College Park, Maryland Youth Services Bureau, and they had a building about a half a mile from where I lived, and we needed somebody to close up this door. Anybody know anything about brickwork or cinder blocks or anything? Yeah, I do, you know. And he just sort of looked at me like, hey, look, I helped my dad build the addition to the house. It was cinder block, and, you know, the mason showed me how to do it, and, you know, that sort of stuff. Yeah, I can fill that hole in. So I went up on a Saturday morning, and I was about half done. I had the wall about half built. And she comes walking in with a couple of other people and says to me, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing over there? I said, oh, I'm bricking up a guy in a clown suit. Okay, and she later told me that she figured that I might be worth something because I could make an allusion to an Edgar Allan Poe story in response to a question about what I was doing. Because I don't know if you remember the story about a cask of Amontillado.
When you first said it, I didn't, and then when you mentioned her response, it came together on me.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's what I was referring to, because he bricks up the guy
Yeah.
behind the wall, you know. So that's how we met.
And how did you know that she was the one?
Well, she moved up here and I came up here to go to grad school. UNH had a 1-year master's program in public administration. And I said, 1 year, no thesis, no practicum, no, I'm in for that.
Yeah.
So I moved up here, and we had been, you know, had the relationship for a couple of years, and, you know, it just grew over time, and in terms of our likes and dislikes, and the way we worked together, and, you know, and how we had a lot of things in common, and those sorts of things, and it just, quite frankly, it just felt right.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, you're Irish, I'm Irish, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of that, at least for me, you know, if it
Yeah.
feels right, you know, you got to go with it, and that's what I did.
Yeah, I was at a little quicker speed. The day after I met my future wife, I called my sister up and said, "Be prepared, I'm going to get married in 18 months." So I've been known that it's kind of my motto: ready, fire, aim.
Well, I mean, there's some guys like that, there's a lot of people like that. That wasn't me, but, my parents were just, they just never, they were just so relieved.
Yeah,
I was about 28 when I got married, so.
yeah. Again, now that would almost be young, but
Yeah.
back then it was a different time. Like to talk a little bit about you. You have one daughter. Is
One
that
daughter,
correct?
that's right, yeah, Hillary.
And if you were going to give someone advice about someone starting out about parenting, what would you give for advice?
Let the kid be who they are.
Yeah.
Channel them, advise them. Sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit more forceful than that at times, but for the most part, just relax and let them do things and let them make mistakes so they can learn. Not dangerous things, but
Yeah.
let them. The way they learn is to make mistakes. One of the first things that happened, my daughter had this penchant for, she wanted to climb the stairs, and it just terrified my mother-in-law. And I said, okay, I'm not going to be able to stop her. She's going to want to keep doing it. So I taught her how to climb the stairs, go up and down the stairs, and that sort of thing. Okay, because there's some things you're not going to be able to prevent them from doing. The best thing you can do is to advise them on what they can do to avoid unnecessary hardship, if you will, at what
Yeah.
they're doing. And I think let them find their own path.
Yeah. Now I understand in the last couple of years you have another love of your life. If you'd like to talk a little bit about your Yakubov says you're gonna have a while to go before you catch him with 9 granddaughters.
Oh
but
yeah.
You have a granddaughter.
Oh yeah. Jeez. Yeah. Yeah. She's what? She was born she's about 15 months old. So.
How's the grandparenting business?
It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. This is the kid we warned our daughter about. She was about 6 months old. I say, remember that kid we told you about? This is it. But she's a.
And what's her name? You don't
Ruby.
mind me asking. Ruby. I
Ruby.
like that.
Yes. And they, that's, and she's a bright little button, and she's, into everything.
And where do they live, Tom?
They live in Westbrook, Maine.
Oh, okay. So that's not bad. I mean,
No.
it certainly beats the other side of the universe.
Well, she lived in L.A. My daughter lived in L.A. for a couple of years, so that was a little
yeah.
tough.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah, she lives in Westbrook, Maine. They live in Westbrook, Maine, and Ruby's a fun little kid.
Oh, well, that's great. What brought you to Merrimack? You mentioned how you came up to the Northeast, but what actually put you in your house in Merrimack, brought you here?
Well, I owned a house in Maryland when I came up here, and I rented it while I was up here. And my wife and I got married in March of '76, and she owned a house in Manchester. So it was her house and my house, but there was no our house.
Yeah.
And my wife was working as the counselor at the Reeds Ferry School. So we started house hunting in, I don't know, June, July.
And where were you
Whatever.
working at the time, Tom?
What was I doing then? I had a job with the Department of Employment Security.
Okay.
I was working in the reports and analysis section.
And where was that,
It was
Manchester?
Concord.
Concord.
In Concord, at their headquarters building. So, it was what was known as a seated job. It was the recession. That was a bad, 75, 76 were tough years.
Yeah.
It was a very deep recession. And they had this program, and the department got 5 slots to hire people to work in their reports and analysis division, and I applied for one of those positions, and I got hired for it. So I was working there, and we bought the house that we live in now, up on Natticook Road.
Yeah.
That big old barn that sits right on the road. And
Ever had any close calls over the years?
no. Well, the closest was one night about 2 years after we moved in. Some guy came down the road, and the road had slicked over, and he hit the brakes and came over the stone wall. But
They've never touched
that's as close as
structure.
that's as close as they got. Even though, and that was the old alignment on the road, because the road now is lower at that point. So
Yeah.
he would have really done some really.
I often
vicious
think of
damage.
that, well, not your house per se, but when I drive through Wilton, there's areas of Wilton just they're right on top of the road, and I
Yeah.
say, geez, I don't know if I'd sleep.
Hey, the reason the house is there is because the reason the road's there is because the house is
Oh,
there.
absolutely,
know.
absolutely.
So, and that house dates back to 1740, the 1740s. So,
Does it really, huh? Well, the next question, we don't necessarily have all the time in the world to answer, but let's do the best we can.
okay.
How have you been involved in the community since you've been in Merrimack?
Well, I first got started with MYA. I umpired and coached and reffed. In fact, one of the first games I reffed was with the late Dick Dumont, and we had it was the older boys were playing that day, and I played basketball in Philadelphia, so I'm used to a more what they call physical style of ball.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And Dick and I just decided we're going to let them play, as long as they're not killing each other.
Yeah.
And some of the coaches took umbrage at our methodology, and Dick ended up calling 6 technicals and 2 ejections. And I'm standing there as the new guy going, what the heck have I gotten into?
And if anyone out there, which I know most know Dick Dumont, once he got going, I mean, that was it.
I said, what are you doing? Leave me alone. All right. All right, I'm just the new guy here. It was, but I got recruited to coach a little league team, and I coached the girls basketball team, and I started out with a space needs committee for the high school, for the school district. They were looking at elementary space, and we came back with
What can you give me a circa? What year?
that
What
would be
we're talking about?
1977, 1978.
Okay.
This place was exploding. I moved into town. There was 14,300 people. Was the census population.
Yeah.
Okay, and by then it was like maybe 15 or 16. I mean, they just stacking kids like cordwood in some places, but they had just opened the wing of the high school, and there were 12 empty classrooms up there. The report essentially said, use those.
Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, and some of the administrators were not very happy, and a few of the school board members weren't very happy. And they turned to the superintendent, Claude Levitt, and said to Claude, well, what do you think of their report? And Claude looked him straight in the eye and he said, you asked for a recommendation? You got it.
There you go.
Yeah,
Did they follow it?
Yeah.
Did
They had already been thinking about moving the 5th grade up there, and everybody was all jiggy about that.
Yeah.
Because you were mixing the older kids with the younger kids, and,
Yeah.
and it actually turned out to be a very good decision. Because what happened was the older kids took the younger kids under their wing and sort of mentored them, and they sort of kept them out of trouble, and a whole bunch of other things. So for the couple of years that they did it, by and large, it worked out very well
Yeah.
for them. So,
Well, and like I joked when we talked about your community involvement, if we were to talk about all of your community involvement, we literally would make this a 2-hour show. So I'd like to touch on a few things, and I'd like to talk about you in the 4th of July, which you were Mr. 4th of July for many years. In between the Carnival guy and the Rotary, it was Tom Mahon
Right.
and crew.
the magician and the Rotary.
Oh, okay.
Doc Damon was the magician.
Oh, okay.
Okay, he was the impresario, if you will. And he did a nice job for 20 years.
Yeah.
He and the Rotary he and the chamber did a nice job with that for 20 years. But what was it, 95, I guess. They were looking for somebody to do something, and Betty Spence called me up. You got any interest in this? I don't know, Betty. Let me think about it. You know. And finally, I wrote her. I called her back. I said, "Yeah, I'll do it. You know, I'll volunteer, and I'm willing to take a leadership position." So they made me the chairman. So I did that for about 8 years, and you know, putting out the first year, I was, you know, oh man, I don't know if this is going to work or not. You know, we got to the parade, and I don't know if this is going to work or not. And after about 5 minutes, I looked around and going, "Hey, wait a minute, they don't need me." So I just started walking up and down. Everybody okay? Everybody got enough water? You guys doing all right?
Yeah.
You know, because I'm here. They're there. We're boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it all went together like that. There was like 134 different units participating in it that year.
Yeah.
And it went together like that. I mean, it was, whoa, all right.
I remember one of my first involvements with the town was on the 4th of July committee, and you decided I would be in charge of the parade. So I thought it was this, I'm in charge of the parade. So I go, what do I do? And you hand me a can of spray paint. And you said, the day before you go, you'll see what we've been doing for the last 8 years. You make it so they know where to stand, and other than that, you just kind of stand back and stay out of their way. That's it. And that was it. You just say, you're number 28.
That's right.
There you stand.
I got the list right here.
And off they went. Yeah. Oh. A couple of quick anecdotes, if you could, on that. I know, you've dealt with some major league, people
Yeah.
that's become president,
Right.
have come in here in this parade. And what was it like dealing with them sometimes? Maybe you had the Texas Rangers in one.
Yeah,
time.
that was interesting. Mr. Mahon, yeah, I'm Sergeant so-and-so from the Texas Rangers. Would you mind meeting with us Saturday morning? Oh, yeah, sure. You know, what the heck is this? I walk up, there was a security detail. So he starts talking to me about, well, why don't you tell us what you're doing? You know, and I'm trying to explain what's going on, and he's becoming even more uncomfortable. And finally said, wait a minute, let's stop. What? Can we back up a little bit? Yeah. What do you need? He looks at me and goes, and then he turned around and looked at the other guys on the detail. Well, here's what we'd like to do. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, we want to do, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can we do this? Da-da-da-da. Yeah, you can do all that, no problem. Well, what if we want to do this? That's no problem either. Just let me know. You know, because I got to feed those things into the line. Oh, okay. We had a great relationship. It was really great. It was they were easy to work with. They were really professionals. They were really good guys, and they were just dying out there with their bulletproof vests on in 88-degree heat.
And at the time, the future President Bush was governor of the state of
he was
Texas
governor.
at the time.
Yeah.
And
But the most relentless campaigner I've ever seen
really,
come through here. Oh yeah, he was all over the place.
And those have been some of your interest over the years. You and the politicians have had your.
Yes, we have. And
I don't mean just the presidential ones.
Yeah,
I mean all of them.
We've had our contretemps, as they say in the diplomatic business.
And another anecdote I'd like you to touch base on is one that almost everyone in Merrimack knows the story and knows what happened because it's Merrimack and Tolls is synonymous.
Yeah.
If you could tell the story of how some individuals decided they were going to play a little prank on then Governor Shaheen and how that all transpired.
Oh, that was an out-and-out cabal. Bob LaRue and I said to Bob, you know what would be interesting, Bob? I said, if somebody put toll booths up on the parade route. And I turned around and walked away from him.
Yeah.
Right? What do you mean? And I sort of explained what I meant, and he goes, oh, I'll get back to you.
Oh, Bob LaRue knows a good idea when he hears one.
So about 2 weeks before the parade, I had to call him up. I said, Bob, what? I need a name. A what? I need a name. What for? I need a name for the group that's going to be the last group in Division 1. And he said, well, what do you need that for? I said, so I can plug you in the line and say that you're an official part of the parade, because Group 2 is all the politicians. Okay, Division 2 are all the politicians. So I got to have a hole there for you so that when you come if you're gonna come out with your toll booths, I can say, hey, he's in a parade, what's
Yeah.
the problem? Okay?
Yeah.
So, oh, I'll get back to you. 10 minutes later, here, use this name. So I plugged the name in. I forget what it was,
Yeah.
but I plugged the name in. And that's when they pulled those out.
How'd she handle it?
Who, the governor?
Yeah.
Wasn't too happy.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't actually see it. I was ahead of them.
Yeah.
I didn't see it because I made sure that I had all the kid walking units in the first division so that they wouldn't get backed up and be out in the heat and everything
Yeah.
for the other stuff. So I was trying to herd them up the street,
Yeah.
okay, and get some distance in case they wanted to complain.
Because I was always surprised. I guess she didn't handle it quite. I'm not saying she was terrible, but I always found her very good natured, and
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised by this. You know,
I think what happened was, I think if somebody in her group had been paying attention, they would have known that there was something up, and they could have given her a heads up that, hey, we don't know what it is, but
yeah.
you might want to be prepared for a surprise.
Yeah, you might want to have some quarters in your
Yeah,
pocket.
yeah. I think maybe that was the other piece too.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, because I think they collected $140 for the food bank.
Really? Did they?
Oh
get
yeah,
that much?
I thought they got a fair amount
No,
of money.
I
from the
thought that
food
was a
bank.
very. I thought that was, as where we've had a few things with the tolls over the years, and I always thought that was a very clever one. Well, again, I'm not trying to rush you off, but
No.
it's just we could talk forever on the community issue. But what I would like you to do is, I'm going to kind of hit you out of left field, is because I know you've been on many, but can you name how many committees you've been chairman of?
10, 12?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to try and help you along a little. I mean, you were chairman of the Charter Commission.
Right.
You've been chairman of the Town Council, of
Right.
course. Some people that have been here later may have no idea that you were chairman of the school board,
Right,
budget committee,
right.
library building committee.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on.
4th of July,
Oh, yeah, 4th of July.
3 space needs committees.
Yeah,
It just keeps going.
yeah. Now, did you ever, I may be dreaming, but did you have like a little hiatus during any of that time?
Yeah, I took, I served out my term on school board, and I didn't run for reelection. And I think I sat out for a year. And then nobody signed up for school district clerk. So I made some phone calls, write me in, and I think I got elected with 25 votes.
Oh, so you were school district clerk too?
Yeah, for 2 terms.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, in fact, I did I had to do the Yasinski-Coleman recount.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Betty Spence couldn't get rid of that fast enough. She was the town clerk. Oh, no, Tom. That's yours. You're the school district clerk. I'm the town clerk.
But you've been doing it for 30, 40 years and serving the community. And,
Since 77.
and as much as it can be a pain in the neck, I'm sure, you must like it. I mean, we do what we like.
Yes, yeah. And that's another thing that that I got from my parents, is this commitment to the community
Yeah.
and the sense of giving back. I mean, they were very active in our church, in our parish. They were active in other organizations, and so
Yeah.
that was one of the things that I got from them.
Okay. Typical Saturday in the life of Tom Mahon.
Oh, let's see. The dog usually wakes us up because he wants to go out. So, that's take him out, do the usual, not doing as many runs to the transfer station as I used to since they went to single stream. I just got 2 45-gallon trash cans, and when they fill up about every 3 weeks, that's when I make the run to the transfer station. But other than that, it's whatever I need to do around the house, which is usually plenty.
Yeah.
Or we might go off and visit our daughter, or my wife's family used to live in Springfield, so sometimes we would go down there. Or now they live in Worcester, so sometimes we go down to Worcester, or we do something on our own, something like that. So I mean, it's a pretty standard weekend. You know.
Yeah, and rumor has it you've officially retired.
Yes, I have. Last July.
Oh wow, good stuff. So you're coming on a year, per se. How's that been?
Fine.
Yeah.
Well, I was ready for it. You know, I told
Yeah.
them when I was retiring, and they were sort of taken aback because
Yeah.
they didn't think I was retirement age.
Yeah.
You know, and and they said, well, you don't have to leave. I said, yeah, I know I don't have to leave, but it's time.
But I don't have to stay.
Yeah, it's time. It was time. I'd been there for over 28 years.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to go in they were moving in a different direction than when I started.
Hey,
out.
just to touch base real quick, where it was, Tom, I don't think we've covered that earlier,
worked
where you spent the
for-
last 28 years.
I worked for Primex for one of the self-funded insurance pools in the state.
Well, I'm looking up at the clock, and I want to make sure I keep it under an hour. So we're going to hit next the lightning round.
Okay.
And basically, I'm going to have a phrase or a word, and you'll answer it, and we'll go on to the next one. To, again, try to learn a little more about Tom Mahon and what makes him tick. Your first car,
51 Plymouth.
really? That
Flathead
was
6.
Was that the one that your father gave you, bought for you, that you paid him back?
Yep.
Present car,
Toyota Camry.
how do you like it?
I like it fine. It's a
Really?
good car. I got 245,000 miles on it.
Because you drove a minivan for a long time.
We got one of those too.
Yeah. Favorite TV show growing up?
Oh. Maverick.
Oh, I had a feeling you were going to pick a cowboy show. Favorite TV show now?
I don't watch a lot of shows on TV anymore. I mean, I really don't.
Well, no offense. After we've handled all the other stuff you
Yeah,
do,
I mean-
one would wonder if you had a
I-
26-hour day.
You know, I
You like the History Channel
Yeah,
at
I
all?
use the History Channel. I go to Military Channel, Discovery. You know, I'll watch a sports event or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
but there's nothing I go to. And
Right,
say,
you're
I
not,
gotta watch it.
right. Your Monday night, you're not glued
Yeah.
to 2.5 Men.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or and when Seinfeld was on, I think I saw half of one episode of the whole Seinfeld
Yeah.
series. You know.
Favorite movie ever?
The Old Man in the Sea.
And the last movie you saw at the theater?
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, really? How'd
Yeah.
you like that?
It was interesting. It's a different twist on it.
Oh,
It's a little-
absolutely.
it's a kinky
Absolutely.
twist, but it's
Yeah.
it's really.
Yeah, we touched base. Your first job, I think we hit already, with the national security.
No, my first job was as a paper boy.
Oh, okay. How long did you do that?
The first time I delivered papers, I was 6 years old. I worked a deal with a kid across the street. If I got 5 customers for him, he could submit them, and I could get the 8-volume set of encyclopedia that the newspaper was offering to the newspaper boys as a prize.
Really?
So I went out and I got 5 customers, and I delivered papers to those 5 customers for 5 or 6 months. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
And then I started my own route when I was 12 and legal.
Yeah.
I started my own paper route when I was 12.
Wow, 6 years. Even back then, that seems awfully young. 6
Yeah.
years. Your current job, we touched base. You recently retired from
Right.
Primex.
Yep.
Favorite musical artist growing up?
Motown.
And favorite musical artist now?
Oh, Motown.
Yeah. Favorite athlete growing up?
Willie Mays.
And favorite athlete now?
Tiger Woods.
Favorite book?
The athlete part of Tiger Woods.
Yeah, there you go. Favorite book?
The Old Man in the Sea.
Oh, geez, Old Man in the Sea. He's hot. And the last
If you ever see that movie, I mean Spencer Tracy.
yeah, I've seen that.
that's a
Spencer Tracy, yeah.
fabulous movie.
Yep.
He's so good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the last book you read?
John Adams.
Oh, really? Yeah, that came out a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
All right, well, we're coming to the end of the show, and
like to talk a little bit about goals. We say you're retired, but anyone that knows you means retired, in the fact that you don't have plans or goals. They don't go together.
Right.
What are your goals, and what do you have on bucket list as a term in the vernacular these days?
Yeah, I know. Well, we just came back from, we drove down to Key West. My wife and I drove down to Key West and back. And on the way, I stopped and saw my cousin, who I haven't seen in a while, and stopped and saw. I've seen all my sisters this year.
Oh, geez, when's the last time that happened?
When my mother died.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
In 06. So,
oh gosh.
yeah, because I got one sister in Utah, I got one in Virginia, and one in Georgia, outside of Atlanta.
Besides traveling, what do you see accomplishing in the next few years?
Oh, I don't know. I've got a ham radio license, so I got a very generous gift card when I left Primex, and I spent it all on ham radio gear. So I'm setting up, I bought a couple of antennas that I'm going to put up, and so that interests me a lot, because I've been in contact with people in New Zealand and
Yeah.
Central Russia, and
How long have you been into that?
Since '04.
Really?
Yeah.
And speaking of your current hobbies, how about the model train situation?
I'm not as interested in that as I used to be. I just sort of, it sort of went by the wayside. I don't know. Just one day I just said, hey, you know what? I'm just not into this. I mean, I'm interested in it, to some extent, because I set up two sets at Christmas time. I have two Lionel sets I put up at Christmas time, but that's been the extent of it.
Where do you hope to retire?
I'm here.
This is it, huh?
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
In 4 or 5 years, we may, we'll probably move out of where we are and go someplace else, but we'll probably stick in the area.
Stay in the. So you have no big plans of snowbirding.
No. I can't see being in Florida in the summer.
Yeah. Well, and when it's all said and done, and they've put the last piece of dirt on you or spread you out, how do you hope people will remember Tom Mahon when they speak about him?
Well, I was somebody that contributed to the community. I was somebody that took care of my family, and that I was a good guy to know. I have a good sense of humor, and a lot of different interests, and that I'll be missed.
I don't think anyone could ask for any more than that.
No.
Well, Tom, I'll tell you, this has been a wonderful interview, and even though I've been lucky enough to know you for 10 years, I've learned a lot about you. I certainly had no idea you were in Vietnam and national security and all the things you did, or that in between all your other committees you were roughing games with Dick Dumont. Well, thank you very, very much, and again, your name will be on the ballot April 10th, and I'm sure you'll be on some other shows and debate night and whatever, and people will learn a little bit more about you, the candidate, but today we learned a lot about Tom, the man. And thank you very much, sir.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you.